What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today, I want to talk about change. Last time I came back to this channel, I talked about the Air Max 95. I talked about the fact that I was able to cop the Air Max 95 Neon, and that getting them in hand made me change my feelings, change my perspective on the silhouette, and really made me reevaluate its place in history, at least as far as I'm concerned. As a part of that video, commenter Homegrown Kicks, who I have to give a major shout out to, he's commented so many times before, been very supportive of me on this content journey. He talked about how, just like me, he also had to reevaluate where the Air Max 95 was in his mind, and also the fact that he was thankful that his tastes had gotten better as he had aged. It got me to thinking about that as a concept, and I think that it applies here in sneakers, but I think also it applies in life, and so I want to dive in. If you really think about it, where you are in life, whether you're in your teens, your 20s, or your 50s, you probably have gone back and thought about your life up until that point. I talked about in the Air Max 95 video that we should be very much looking at where we came from in order to understand where we are. Something that I fundamentally believe in life is that as we get older, especially as we hit a new decade, that in many ways we should be a fundamentally different person. And I mean that in our world should have gotten larger, we should have gained wisdom, and we should be introspective and looking back at our life, our experiences, and more importantly, our opinions and perspectives, and reevaluating them. And when I think about where I was in my 20s, in my 30s, and now, I realize that I have actually achieved that, maybe not in all of the ways that I would like to have achieved it, but I feel like who I am now is fundamentally different than the person that I was at 18, or 25, or 35. And to me, that's a great thing. When it comes to our life, our opinions, our perspectives, and everything should update, should change in some way. But I also think that as we get older, our tastes do change. We don't like the same things that we always liked when we were kids. If you think about musically, yes, we are definitely hooked on things that we are nostalgic for. I think about movies and music and television shows. But also, as we get older, we start to broaden our horizons and welcome in other genres of whether it be music or television or what have you. The movies that we fell in love with when we were a kid, while we still love them, are not always what we are constantly seeking out as we get older. Now let's apply that to sneakers for a minute. One of the elements that sneakers and sneaker companies traffic in majorly is nostalgia. Nostalgia can be a good thing. Nostalgia, I believe, is what keeps the culture going. I believe it is something that kind of binds us together. It is a tie that really binds us together in many ways. If you are the same age as other people who are experiencing this culture as you look back on the releases that happened over your lifetime, or the shared experiences that you've had that we talked about in the community video, and you bond over those things. But one element that's also talked about in sneakers, and I think a lot of times nostalgia plays a role in this, is gatekeeping. Gatekeeping is seen as a negative in just about every community or every hobby or activity that you can think of. When you get to a certain place in a culture, you generally tend to think that the way that you're living it or the era in which you experienced it is better than the era that's happening now. And people that are experiencing sneakers now who are seeing all the availability are thinking, this is the best. Why would you want to go back to an older time? Many times as we get older, we are very tied to the thoughts and feelings that we had our entire life. And you see that a lot of times in the world as people who are very old in their 70s, 80s, 90s get so stuck in their ways. I think many times in sneakers, we can also get stuck in our ways. But the sneaker companies are furthering that. They are constantly giving us the same silhouettes, constantly retroing other shoes. And while I think that that is a good thing because I love being able to get OG colorways of silhouettes that I've never owned, it does provide us the propensity to sort of stay stuck in neutral. And when I looked at this comment and I really started to think about it and dive into what this meant, I looked back at my sneaker journey. Have my tastes changed? I would say that yes, they have. While I will always have an affinity for the Jordan 1, always have an affinity for the Nike Dunk Low, especially the SB, I think about the last couple of years and what I have been copying. And while Jordan 4s are always going to be a staple in my rotation, I've also added in other silhouettes that I've really fell in love with, like Mac Attacks, and AirTech Challenge 2, and now the Air Max 95. My collection is a lot more diverse than it ever was. And when I think about when I first got back into the game, I was so obsessed with all the hype, so obsessed with everything that I thought you needed to have in order to be a sneakerhead. What I've now come to realize, especially after this comment, is that many people's tastes should change. That many times we're not only gatekeeping other people in the community, but we're really gatekeeping ourselves. We are having ourselves stay stuck in neutral, not ever moving forward. And moving forward doesn't mean completely leaving behind the past. Moving forward means taking some of that past and intertwining it with a future, the present and the future. To me, that is oh so important. And so the Air Max 95 becoming something that I have loved makes me wonder from you, what are some silhouettes that maybe you never paid any mind to, but now you look at them and think, that's something that I have to have. I truly believe that everybody should live this culture and whatever culture is associated with a hobby or an activity that you love differently. It's important that we all don't have the same experience, all don't have the same tastes, all don't have the same collection. But I think many times we feel that we have to feel a certain way or feel the same way as other people. It's a through line in so many of the videos that I've made. But go back and look at your collection. Think about how it's changed. Think about silhouettes that maybe you never thought about or cared about or even liked that now you look at and you've copped, or you want to cop, or you have accepted now in your rotation. That's called growth, people. And I think that that's very, very healthy. And I think sneakers could actually do more of that publicly. We see that from companies, we see that from what's on social media, and I'm talking about this runner craze. Adidas now coming out and really being a dominating force in the basketball world. ASICS, no longer just for running, but now for hype, now for people on the streets, for the culture. They have adapted, and we need to adapt too. So go back, be introspective, take a look at yourself, take a look at your collection, take a look at your tastes, and figure out ways that they have changed. And if they haven't, ask yourself why, and embrace maybe one different perspective, one different shoe, and maybe that will broaden your horizons and open up your sneaker world, thus adding to this community that I think is oh so important. I hope this finds everybody well, hope this finds everybody safe, and I'll talk to you in the next one.